Come on now. That's the way to throw 'em in. Let's have another snowball like that, Tommy. Hey, Teddy, you stop coming so close when you throw those hard balls. Look out, Frank! There's one coming for your nose. Wow! I got that one right in the ear. Who threw it? I did. Joey Grubb. And here comes another. A throng of boys were on the big snow-covered lawn in front of the Riverdale School, having a fight with snowballs, a battle of fun and good nature, and the shouts and cries went back and forth as the lads rushed this way and that, eager to hit the enemy and protect themselves from being struck. Say, this is fun, I guess, eh? Asked Billy Ruggler, as he stooped over to gather up another handful of the snow. As he did so, a ball caught him on the back of the neck. Fun, eh? How about that? Asked Tommy TipTop, who is to be the hero of this story. Call that fun, Billy? Oh, I don't mind. Who did it? I'll let him have a worse one. I don't know. I think it was Sammy Sandlass, but I'm not sure. Here goes. Watch me hit Mortimer Manchester. Can't look, Tommy. I'm too busy throwing balls myself. I'm going to let Sammy have one for luck anyhow. Here goes. Billy threw the snowball, but it missed its mark and struck Georgie Pennington full in the face. Oh, wow! Spluttered Georgie as he whirled around and wiped the snow out of his mouth and eyes. I'll get square with you for that, Billy. I didn't mean to do it, Georgie. I was aiming at Sammy. I don't care. You hit me all right. Now you look out. I'm going to make a hard one. Here they come! Here they come! Suddenly cried Tommy, for the boys had roughly divided themselves into two parties, representing the attacking and the defending forces. And as Tommy had said, the attackers were now making a quick rush toward our hero and those on his side. Throw as fast as you can! Quick! Here, make any kind of balls. Don't stop to get them round, yelled Tommy. Come on! Cried Sammy Sandlass, who was leading the other lads onward. Let's drive them back into the school, and then we'll win. Keep 'em back! Keep 'em back! Begged Tommy, as if he was talking to his football 11, when the other side was about to make a touchdown. Keep 'em back! Come on now! Let 'em have all the snowballs you got ready, yelled Sammy to his force of lads. There was a clash between the two sides. The air seemed filled with flying snowballs. The shouts and yells came louder and faster. The lads themselves could not make out what each one was saying, and some of them were laughing so heartily at the fun that they dropped their snowballs and were left defenseless. Then they would be overwhelmed with a rush on the part of some armed enemy, and would receive a round of white-flaked balls in the face or down the neck. "Oh, isn't that awful?" exclaimed one girl to another, as with a group of friends they stood and watched the snow battle, well out of the way of flying balls. "It's the worst fight they've had yet, Nellie," replied the one spoken to, who was Sally Grubb, a sister to Joey. "Oh, of course it's only in sport," went on Nellie TipTop, who was Tommy's sister. "But boys do seem to like such rough fun." "Like football and baseball," added Sally. "But baseball isn't so bad. Your brother plays football fine, I think." "Yes, Oh, there goes the bell. Recess is over. Come on in. Look, they're all mixed up now." And the girl pointed to the group of boys who were in one compact crowd, throwing each other down and rolling one another in the snow. Above the noise they made could be heard the clang of the school bell as it called the pupils in from recess, for it was during the intermission of the morning session that the snow fight had taken place. "All over! All over!" cried the boys. "One last round," exclaimed Tommy, and his side, drawing back from the mix-up with the others, delivered a final volley of snowballs. Some of them went high in the air, and then came a return fire. Once more the fight was on, and the boys who had been rolled in the snow jumped to their feet to take part in it. Suddenly, there was a crash of glass. It brought a quick silence, as nothing else could have done, and every lad turned to look at the school. A gap appeared in one of the second-story windows, and the lads could hear the tinkle of the glass as it fell. "Oh, who did that? Somebody'll catch it for that. I didn't do it. I was throwing the other way." "So was I," thus cried different boys. "It was Tommy TipTop's side that did it," spoke Sammy. He was throwing right toward the school. I was not, declared Tommy. I was throwing away off to one side, and so were all my fellows, weren't we? Sure we were, the others cried in answer. The bell continued to ring for a moment, and then it ceased clanging. A moment later, Mr. Miggs, the janitor, rushed out toward the crowd of boys who were approaching the school. Mr. Miggs had left off ringing the bell to find out about the broken window. Who did that? He demanded. Who smashed that glass? Whoever did it has got to pay for it. I won't be blamed for it. Who did it? I didn't, exclaimed nearly every lad in the throng. Tommy TipTop, began someone. Now look here, interrupted Tommy. I won't be blamed for that. My side wasn't throwing toward the school any more than yours was, Sammy. It isn't fair to say we did it. But someone broke the light of glass, insisted the janitor. I'm going to make you boys— What's the matter, Mr. Miggs? Asked another voice, and everyone turned to see the principal of the school approaching. What has happened? He asked quietly. These boys were snowballing, and they broke a window in Miss Ryerson's room. I'm trying to find out who did it, and make him pay for it. Does anyone know who did it? Asked the principal, as he looked at the throng of eager and flushed faces before him. Then he smiled and quickly added, No, I don't want to ask that question. I don't want you to inform on each other. Will any boy admit that he broke the window? There was a moment of silence. Then Tommy TipTop, who usually was the first to do anything, whether it was organizing a snowball fight or making an explanation, stepped forward. If you please, sir, said Tommy, I don't believe anyone could say who did it. We were all throwing together, and we didn't look to see where the snowballs went. I might have thrown it myself, but I don't believe I did. Our side was throwing in the other direction. It's hard to say who did it. The principal was silent a moment, and then, looking at the lad in front of him, he said, Tommy, I believe you're right. It would be hard to say who did it. We won't suspect anyone, and I'll put the blame on the shoulders of all of you. Then it won't be so hard to bear. Now the recess is already too long and— But about the broken window, interrupted the janitor. That has to be paid for, and— You are right, Mr. Miggs, said the principal. Yes, boys, the window must be paid for. The school trustees have a rule that any damage done by pupils must be made good. There is also a rule of the school, which I have made, against throwing snowballs so close to the building as you have done today. Now this is what I am going to do. I am going to ask each of you to bring me 2 cents tomorrow. There are about 50 of you, and that will be $1. I think the glass can be put in for that, can it not, Mr. Miggs? Oh, yes, $1 will do it. Then that is settled. Each boy brings 2 cents, and if there is any money left over, it will go into the Christmas fund, which we raise every year for the poor families of the town. That is all. You may go to your classes. The boys turned into the schoolyard, whispering among themselves, and on the other side, the girls filed into their assembling room. Say, we got off easy, didn't we? Asked Sammy of Tommy. We certainly did. Well, that was the best way out of it. Oh, leave it to Tommy TipTop to find a way out, spoke Fat Joey Grubb. Then he added, Say, my ear hurts where I got hit. It's a wonder you feel anything with all that fat on you, commented Teddy Bunker. Oh, go on. I'm not so fat as I was, objected Joey. No, you did get some off playing football, but there's plenty left, replied Billy Ruggler. Then the lads found themselves in the presence of some teachers, and they quieted down. Soon the pupils of the Riverdale School were at their studies, though some of them did not put all their attention on the books, for they were thinking too much about the snowball fight and the broken window. And while there is a little quiet, I will use a few minutes in which to tell you something more about Tommy TipTop, as he is to figure largely in this story. Tommy was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan TipTop, who lived in Riverdale, a good-sized and prosperous town. Mr. TipTop was employed there, having a position at which he made considerable money. He was a careful and saving man, and as he wanted Tommy to grow up the same way, our hero did not have much spending cash, except what he earned himself. In the first book of this series, entitled Tommy TipTop and His Baseball Nine, I told how he happened to start his team. He moved to Riverdale from Milton and had an adventure or two on the way. He also had many adventures when he got to his new home. One lad there, Jackie Norton, was very unkind to him, and Sam Bolton, who was a crony of Jackie, was also quite mean. But Tommy and Jackie became friends. Tommy saved Jackie from what might have been a serious accident. When Tommy had his 9 organized, they played many games and won several victories. Then came the long vacation from school, and Tommy's father took a cottage at Lake Dunkirk, where the family spent the summer. In the second book of the series, called Tommy TipTop and His Football 11, I told you about some of the good times he had at the lake, how he saved a little girl from drowning, helped put out a fire, and caught some fish. Then he went home to organize his Football 11, and in the second book, I told how he won a great victory and was able to clear his team from the suspicion of having done some damage to a florist's shop. Now it was the beginning of winter, and though Christmas was still some time off, there had already been quite a fall of snow. You have read in the beginning of this chapter how the snow was the means of Tommy getting up a friendly fight. When school was out for the noon hour, the boys and girls had a chance to resume their talk about what had happened at recess. 2 cents each is a cheap way of getting off, said Billy. Yes, but I don't see why fellows that didn't break the window should have to pay, objected Bob Wilson. Oh, don't mind a little thing like that, came from Tommy. We're all to blame, and we all have to pay. That's right, cried several. Going down my way? Asked Joey of Tommy, for Joey was one of our hero's special chums, having played on the baseball 9 and football 11. I guess so, was the answer. Oh, no, I forgot. My mother asked me to stop at Mr. Wentworth's hardware store and bring her a potato knife. I'll have to get it. I'll see you when you come back to school, and say, maybe this afternoon we can get up another fight and build a snow fort. Hey, that'll be fine, declared Joey. And then Tommy parted from him to go to the store. On his way home, after buying the knife for his mother, Tommy took a shortcut across the lots. It was in rather a lonely section, and to amuse himself, until he should get out on the street again, Tommy gathered up some snow and made several hard balls. Wonder if I can hit that tin can on the limb of that tree, he said to himself, as he looked at a small clump of hemlocks in the middle of the field. Here goes, he exclaimed, and he let fly. He did hit the can, knocking it some distance away, and as he came nearer the place where it had hung, he was surprised to see a fire burning under the low-branched trees, a fire burning under a sort of tin roof, supported on sticks driven into the ground, and seated at the fire was a man clad in ragged garments. A tramp, Tommy thought. This man sprang to his feet as Tommy knocked the can down, and looking at the lad with a most unpleasant face, demanded, "Did you knock my soup can down?" "I didn't know it was yours," replied Tommy, coming to a stop. The man slowly approached him. "Well, it was mine," he went on, "and I'd like to know what you mean by making it full of dents, eh?" he demanded half savagely. "I'm sure I didn't mean to," said Tommy. He started to pass on, for he did not like the looks of the fellow. "You didn't, eh? Well, I'll see about that." And before Tommy could run, the man, with a sudden leap, was beside him, and had grasped him by the wrist, holding him a prisoner, and glaring at him with evil eyes. "Let me go!" demanded Tommy TipTop of the tramp, as the lad struggled to free himself. "What right have you got to take hold of me like this?" "What right did you have to knock my can down?" leered the man, pulling Tommy toward the clump of trees. The boy was surprised to see that the tramp had fitted the place up as a sort of camp, with a little cave hollowed out in the earth, and old bags and pieces of carpet spread around. There were also several empty cans, some firewood, and the feathers of several fowls scattered about. "What did you want to go throwing at my soup can for?" demanded the fellow. "I told you, I didn't know it was yours," replied the lad. "Well, it is. I set it over the fire to boil my soup in. That is, when I have any soup to boil. But I think I'm going to have some now. pretty soon, and something better in soup, too. You busted my can. Say, you let me go, cried Tommy, feeling very much afraid of the evil fellow, but making up his mind not to show it. If you don't, I'll have the police after you. I know the judge and Detective Hickey. I don't care anything about judges and police, returned the tramp. They'll never get me. I say you broke my can. It isn't broken at all, interrupted Tommy, who could see it plainly. It may be dented, but there are plenty more cans around. We have some at our house, and they won't be like that can, declared the tramp. That was a specially fine one. And since you damaged it, you'll have to pay for it. Pay for it? Gasped Tommy. Sure. Here, let me see how much money you got in your clothes. And the fellow thrust one dirty hand into Tommy's pocket, while with the other he kept a tight hold of the boy's wrist, so tight a grasp indeed that it pained the lad. You ought to have money, leered the tramp. You've got good clothes on. I wish they fitted me. My Prince Albert coat needs to go to the tailor's, he added, with a hoarse laugh at his own joke. Take your hand out of my pocket, demanded Tommy firmly. Not till I see if you've got any spare change about you. Take your hand out, cried Tommy, who could not bear to have the unclean tramp so close to him. I only have 10 cents, and I'll give it to you myself. Take your hand out, I say. He was so indignant about it, and looked so fearlessly at the fellow, that the latter obeyed, muttering, You must think I'm poison. I want what money you've got, and I'm going to have it. I'll take this, too, he added, as he snatched the potato knife from Tommy's hand. That will come in handy to peel my spuds with. Spuds is potatoes, he added, translating his words. Come now, fork over that dime. Tommy, glad that he was getting off thus easily, reached his free hand into his pocket. He gave a glance across the fields, hoping that someone might be crossing who would come to his aid, but he saw no one, and the nearest house was a long distance off. Ha! That looks good to me, spoke the tramp, as Tommy put the coin in his unclean palm. What else you got? Got a knife or a watch? I need 'em in my business. I guess I'll just search you myself and— Hands off that boy! Suddenly exclaimed a voice, and out from behind the clump of trees stepped Johnny Green, a town character, rather worthless and shiftless, but with a big, kind heart. Hands off, I say, he cried, and Tommy never knew Johnny Green could speak so determinedly. Let Tommy go, or— Well, what will you do? Snarled the tramp. I'll have to use this on you if you don't, answered old Johnny, and from behind him he drew a heavy club. There was a moment's silence. Tommy felt the tramp's grasp on his wrist loosening, and in an instant the lad pulled away. Catching up a heavy stick, he placed himself beside Johnny. I came along just in time, went on Johnny, with a bold look at the tramp. I was coming across the fields, and I saw you have hold of this boy. I couldn't make out at first who he was, but I could see what you were, he added, as he looked at the tramp's ragged garments. So I just came quietly along, and hid behind the trees, until I heard all I wanted to hear. I wanted you to do something that would give the police a chance to hold you on a serious charge, and you've done it. Highway robbery, that's what you've committed, and there's a heavy penalty for it. I did no highway robbery, whined the tramp, now made cowardly by the presence of Johnny Green. Even though Tommy's rescuer was rather feeble, and perhaps while not equal to the tramp in strength, there was a boldness about him that cowed the fellow. Besides, Johnny had a stout cudgel, and there was also Tommy to reckon with now, and he, too, had a stick. The tramp knew he would be no match for the two of them, and he whined out, I didn't do any highway robbery. I was only hungry and cold, and— Yes, and you took a potato knife, and 10 cents away from Tommy here, went on Johnny, and that's highway robbery. I'm going straight to the judge and give information about you. You can't get out of town in time either, for it isn't far to the city hall, and I'll soon be back. You've got the evidence of your crime on you. Here, take 'em. I don't want 'em, cried the tramp, And he threw the dime and the potato knife toward our hero. I didn't know it was highway robbery, he added, slinking back into his camp amid the trees. You knew what it was, all right, declared Johnny. Evidence or no evidence, I'm going to have you arrested. Come on, Tommy. We'll have this fellow run in. Tommy stooped to pick up the knife, which he knew his mother would need, but the dime had sunk down in the snow, and he could not find it. The tramp was muttering to himself as the man and the boy started across the fields in the direction of the town. Are you really going to have him arrested? Asked Tommy. Of course. If he's there when we get back with an officer, he's a dangerous fellow to have loose. He might do some serious crime. Besides, I guess he's been taking some of the chickens that folks have been missing of late. There were a lot of feathers there, commented Tommy. Oh, he's the one, all right. And he may have someone with him. We'll run him out of town or put him in jail. Did he hurt you or scare you much? Not much. I was beginning to get afraid, though, when you came along, admitted Tommy. Say, you're brave to stand up to him the way you did. Oh, it doesn't take much to be brave with such chaps as he is, replied Johnny. Besides, I used to be a soldier, though no one would think it to look at me now. And he glanced somewhat ashamedly at his poor clothes. Poor old Johnny Green was what is called shiftless. He did not work much, and when he did, he would rather help the boys build something in play than to do something by which he could earn money. The town helped support him, and he managed to get enough for a bare living. But he was good-hearted and honest, and often helped Tommy and his chums, as I have told you in the other books of this series. How did you happen to be near him, Tommy? Asked the man, and our hero related what had happened, and then they went to the city hall. The judge listened to Tommy's story, and to that of Johnny Green, and at once sent Detective Hickey to arrest the fellow. But, as might have been expected, the tramp had gone. His camp was as it had been, but the occupant was probably far away. Let's follow his tracks, suggested Tommy, who went with the officer and Johnny Green. The affair had been kept quiet, or otherwise all the boys in town would have run out to see the capture made. As it was, several of Tommy's chums, seeing him walking along with the officer, called after him to know what the matter was, while some demanded to know if Tommy himself had been arrested. But Tommy had answered no with a laugh, and had given no information. Let's follow his tracks over the snow, and we can get him, proposed Tommy again, as Johnny and Officer Hickey were looking in and about the camp. It wouldn't be of any use, replied the officer. We could trace him across the lots, maybe, but we'd soon lose track of him. He's out of town by this time. But I'll make some inquiries, which he did with the effect that he learned from several persons that they had seen the tramp making haste toward the borders of Riverdale. It was too late for Tommy to go back to school for the afternoon session, following the discovery that the tramp had fled, for our hero did not get home to dinner until after 1 o'clock, and his mother, much worried, was about to go to school to find out what had happened. Then Tommy came in and told his experience, whereupon Mrs. TipTop was much relieved and at once telephoned to the school to inform the principal. She asked the latter to let Nellie know that her brother was safe, for when the little girl had gone back to school, Tommy had not yet arrived home, and Nellie had seen how anxious her mother was. Then, too, at the afternoon recess, some of the boys told Nellie how they had seen her brother with the officer. Maybe he's arrested for breaking the school window, suggested Herbert Cress. He is not, declared Joey Grubb, who always defended Tommy. He's all right, Nellie, went on Fat Joey, as he saw tears coming into the eyes of his chum's sister. Don't you worry. Nellie turned away, and Joey took occasion to hoarsely whisper in Herbert's ear, If you say that again, I'll punch your head. Not very nice talk, perhaps, but really Joey did not mean anything by it, and I think we will pardon him just this once. Come on, fellows, called Joey, when school was out and he started off on a run. Where are you going? Demanded Teddy. Down to Tommy TipTop's house. Let's find out what happened and why he was with Detective Hickey. Maybe there's a big mystery or a robbery, and Tommy is helping to clear it up. He'll tell us all about it. Come on! Quite a number of lads caught at the idea at once, and soon a procession of them was headed for the home of our hero. "Mercy, Tommy! What do all those boys want?" cried his mother, as she saw them coming. "Want to hear about what happened, I guess. I'll take them out and show them the tramps' camp. You'd never know it was there until you got close to it. It's fine." Tommy took the boys out to where the tramp had caught him, and the lads walked all about, in and out of the camp. "Say, this is an all-right way to live," exclaimed one lad. "It isn't clean enough for me," spoke another. "Still, camping in the winter is something new," exclaimed Tommy. "Say, fellows, I've got an idea," he cried suddenly. "What is it?" came in a chorus. "Let's see if our folks won't let us build a winter camp. We could make a log hut and have a fire in it and—" "Say, that's great!" yelled nearly everyone. "Let's go look for a place for it," added Teddy Bunker. The boys started off, full of enthusiasm, toward a clump of woods not far from town. But they did not carry out their intention of selecting a place for a winter camp. What attracted their attention as soon as they reached the woods was the sight of a column of smoke slowly going up through the trees. "Hold on! Wait a minute!" called Tommy, as he had a first glimpse of it. "Someone is camping in there now." "I'll bet it's tramps!" exclaimed Herbert Kress. "Let's go look," suggested Billy. "No, let's go back and tell the police," came from Sammy. It was an evidence of how much they depended on Tommy when they all turned and looked at him to see what he would say. "I've got another idea," spoke Tommy, and his chums waited to hear what it was. "Well, what is it?" asked Joey Grubb, as Tommy moved up to the head of the little procession of boys. "What are you going to say?" "It's like this," went on Tommy. "There's no use in going back to the police until we're sure there are some tramps here for them to catch. No use making the officers come out here for nothing." "But there are tramps here," insisted Billy. "Can't you see the smoke of their campfire?" "Other folks besides tramps can make a fire," returned Tommy. "What I say is, let's sneak up and take a look first." "And then what?" asked Frank Bonder. "Why, then we can tell whether there are tramps in those woods or not," replied Tommy. "If there are, and they don't see us, it's time enough then to go back and tell the police." "But they may run off while we're gone," suggested Joey. "That's so," admitted Tommy thoughtfully. "Say, some of us could stay here, sort of hiding, you know," suddenly proposed Sammy, "and the rest of us could go tell the police." "Good idea," cried Tommy. "We'll do it." Cautiously now, the lads advanced into the woods. There were several paths they could follow, and as there was snow on the ground, they made little noise. They headed for the place where they had seen the column of smoke. It was still arising, and they made their way slowly forward. "Suppose they come for us. What'll we do?" Herbert wanted to know in a whisper. "Everybody get a club," suggested Tommy. "That's what Johnny Green had, a good big club." The boys paused to arm themselves, and again they started ahead, making as little noise as possible. "Look, there it is!" suddenly exclaimed Tommy, coming to a halt and pointing to an object through the trees. "A regular log hut," said Billy. "These tramps live in style, all right," added Teddy. At that moment, fat Joey Grubb stepped on a stick. It broke with quite a loud report in the still woods, and at once a man stepped out of the little log cabin and exclaimed, "Hello, boys. I see you there between the trees. Up to some trick? If you are, don't do it, for I don't like to be annoyed. But if you just come to pay a friendly call, come right in. Only be careful that I don't step on you, for I've got powerful big feet, and when I do step on anything, I generally squashes it. Come right in." Tommy TipTop gave a gasp of surprise. Where had he heard that voice before, and that talk about the big feet? All at once, it came to him. It was one of the men who had helped the TipTop family move from Milton to Riverdale. And the mover had, at that time, as I have related in the first book of this series, made many remarks about his big feet. "Come along, boys," called the man good-naturedly. "But look out, I don't step on any of you. Of course I wouldn't mean to do it, but accidents will happen." "Say, he isn't a tramp, fellows," cried Tommy. "We're on the wrong trail. How do you make that out? Asked Sammy. Because I know that man. He helped move us. He always is talking about his big feet. Come on, he's real jolly. But what's he doing here, living in a log hut? Asked Billy. I don't know. We'll find out, said Tommy. Come on. The boys filed into the little clearing that was about the log cabin, and no sooner had the man caught sight of Tommy that he called out, Well, if it isn't that TipTop chap that I helped move. Well, glad to see you again. And your friends, too. He hurried forward and then stopped suddenly. What's the matter? Asked Tommy. Afraid I might step on some of you, replied the man with a laugh. You see, I've got powerful big feet. And he lifted them up, one after the other, to show them off. And indeed, they were very big, and were made much larger owing to the fact that he had wrapped pieces of bags about his boots to keep out the snow. I don't want to hurt any of you boys, he added. I guess we can keep out of your way, said Tommy, as he looked around and noted that the log cabin was in the midst of what might be called a lumber camp. A number of trees had been cut down, and there was a pile of poles, besides much brush. What are you doing here? Asked Tommy of the man, whose name he learned later was Henry Doolittle. Cutting lumber and getting out hop poles, was the reply. You see, the moving business is slow in winter, so I always have to get a job at something else. The man who owns these woods hired me to thin them out, and at the same time get what lumber and poles I could. I believe he's going to make a picnic grove here. But what in the world were you boys sneaking up on me for? Trying to play a trick? We thought this was a tramps' camp, explained Tommy, as he told the story of his holdup. We were going for the police. Glad you didn't, said the man with a laugh, for I might have stepped on some of them and got arrested. Do you camp out here all winter? Asked Tommy. Oh, yes. I like to be by myself. I made this log hut. It's nice and warm, even on the coldest days, if I keep up a good fire. Come on in, and I'll show you. I'm my own cook and housekeeper, but I haven't had time to wash the dishes yet, so you'll excuse me. Go on in ahead of me, and then I won't step on any of you. And the boys, laughing at his joke, preceded him. Say, this is fine, exclaimed Tommy, as he and the others saw the interior of the hut and noted the stove, the sleeping bunk, the table, and the different articles of furniture. It would suit me all right, declared Sammy. Oh, if we only could go winter camping, exclaimed Joey. I'm hungry already. Never saw a boy who wasn't, commented the man. Here, try some of my cookies. And he passed out a plateful. Why don't you fellows go camping? You could easily build a hut like this. Maybe we will someday, declared Tommy. Better get at it soon, advised the man. The weather is mild now, but there's going to be a change soon. I can smell a big storm coming, and I used to be a lumberman, so I know the weather signs. I suppose you boys go skating on the river? Yes, replied Sammy, when the dale is frozen over. Riverdale took its name from being located on the Dale River, a large stream that bordered the town. Skating is great sport, went on Mr. Doolittle. Ever do any ice boating? This river looks good for that, as it's quite wide. Ever do it? No, replied Tommy. I guess there was never an ice boat around here, was there, fellows? As he appealed to his chums. No, answered Sammy, who had lived in Riverdale all his life. I never saw nor heard of an ice boat. Then why don't you boys make one? Suggested Mr. Doolittle. They're not hard to make. The sail is the hardest. I've got a small sailboat, said Frank Bonder. Then use that sail. You take 2 big sticks, put them together crossways, almost as you would kite sticks. Put runners on the ends of the cross sticks, and also one in the back, on the long stick. Put your sail up where the 2 sticks come together. Make your back runner movable so you can steer by it. And there you are. You might use small sleds for the runners. It sounds easy, said Herbert. Yes, but you want to be careful how you sail it, went on the lumberman. They're easily upset, and they go like the wind. I'd make one if I were you. I believe I will, cried Tommy TipTop. We could make it in our barn, fellows, and sail it on the river as soon as it freezes. And that won't be very long, for I think we'll have very cold weather soon, went on Mr. Doolittle. I'll help you to make it, if you can't do it alone. Thanks, cried Tommy gratefully. We'll do it, eh, fellows? Sure, they all cried. And so you thought I was a tramp? Asked the lumberman, as the boys prepared to leave. Yes, confessed Tommy. Well, I just wish I had that tramp here who bothered you, Tommy TipTop, spoke the man. I'd just step on him. And he held up one big foot and laughed. Are you really going to build an ice boat, Tommy? Asked Joey Grubb, as he and the other boys walked out of the woods with our hero. Of course I am. That will be great. Maybe we can have a race, said Billy Ruggler. There won't be any other boat to race with, spoke Tommy, but we can have some skating races when we aren't ice boating. I'm going to start on it tonight. Come on over, fellows. Sure, they said in a chorus. And that night, there was a busy time in Tommy's barn. The ice boat was started, Frank Bonder bringing over the sail from his boat. The next day, after each boy had taken his 2 cents to school to pay for the broken window, there was another meeting in the barn to work on the boat. Tommy had all the help he needed, and Mr. Doolittle took a little time off a few days later and came down to correct some of the mistakes the boys had made. He also gave them some lumber. It was a week after this, when the ice boat was beginning to look like what it was intended for, that one Saturday Joey Grubb came hurrying into the barn where the other boys were at work. Joey was puffing, for he had run fast, and this was hard work for him. What's the matter? Asked Tommy. Say, did you hear the news? Panted Joey. News? What news? Asked Billy. Have they caught the tramp that held up Tommy? Inquired Teddy. No, but Sam Belton has bought a second-hand ice boat. A big one, and he's going to run it on Dale River. Sam Belton going to have an ice boat too? Demanded Tommy in surprise. Yep, replied Joey. Sam Belton, that fellow who used to go with Jackie Norton, and who made so much trouble for me, went on our hero. Yep. Well, I don't know as it makes any difference, said Tommy after a pause. The river is big enough for both boats. Yes, but he'll always be running into us, or yelling at us to get out of the way or something like that, complained Joey, and the others agreed with him. Well, we can't do anything, decided Tommy. Hand me that saw, Joey, and you get busy nailing these braces on. We want to get our boat done soon. It's getting colder, and there may be a big freeze any night now. Say, this isn't much like freezing weather, exclaimed Tommy TipTop, as he crawled out of bed a few mornings after he had heard the news about Sam Belton going to have an ice boat. The river will never be ice if this keeps on. Well, might he say so, for it was raining hard, and it was quite warm outside. You can't even have a snow fight in this kind of a storm, remarked Nellie, when she and her brother were at the breakfast table. But why are you so anxious for it to freeze, Tommy? So I can try the ice boat. It's nearly done, all but putting the runners on. We'll do that tonight. Mr. Doolittle is coming over to look at it and see if we've made any more mistakes. And what are you going to do with it when it is finished? Asked his mother. Take her down on the river and race her. That's what she's for. You want to be sure the ice is good and thick, cautioned Mr. TipTop. I don't want you to fall in. I can swim, replied Tommy. Didn't I learn to dive up at Lake Dunkirk? Yes, but falling in under the ice is different, went on his father. The water is very cold, and if you get caught on the underside of a sheet of ice, it's hard to get out. Have all the fun you want, but be careful. I will, promised Tommy. And then he looked for his raincoat and rubbers, for the weather was anything but pleasant for going to school. Most of the snow had disappeared, and what little was left was fast melting. Not very good weather, is it? Remarked Joey Grubb, as he met Tommy about halfway to school. Not very good for our ice boat, added Tommy. I hope it freezes tonight. It was getting much colder that evening, and had stopped raining, when Mr. Doolittle, leaving his log cabin in the woods, made his way to Tommy's barn. There the lumberman inspected the ice boat. I think it will do pretty well, was his opinion. You will have to change the runners and the rudder a little, and I just don't like the way you've got that sail rigged. I'll show you how to do it better. For an hour or more, he worked with Tommy and his chums, showing them their mistakes and helping to make them right. In that time, the boat took on more the appearance of a regular ice yacht. Of course, it was rather roughly made, but the sail was large enough to send it along at good speed, and there was room for about half a dozen boys to crowd on, somehow. "All we want is a big freeze and a hard wind," said Tommy, as the boys left him that night. "Well, I think you'll get what you want," was the opinion of the lumberman. "It's blowing up colder than ever." "I hope so," responded Tommy, and his hopes were realized. The next morning there was a chill to the air that made the blood tingle. The wind was blowing briskly, and Tommy, looking from his window, saw that little puddles of water in the yard were frozen solid. "Oh, that's what I want!" he cried. "I wonder if the river is frozen over." He went to school very early that morning, and as he hurried along, his nose and ears tingled in the cold wind. He went by a path that would take him past the river, and he was delighted when he saw the wide expanse of the frozen surface. "Oh, that's just what we want!" he cried, as he went down and cautiously tried the ice. It bore his weight, but he wondered if it was thick enough for the ice boat. "Hello, Tommy," a voice called to him. "Going fishing?" "Fishing?" he repeated, looking around to see where the hail had come from. "How can you fish today?" "Through the ice, of course," was the reply. "I'm going to try for pickerel." And Johnny Green, with an axe over his shoulder and some fishing apparatus under his arm, came down the bank leading to the river. "I'm going to cut a hole through the ice," he explained, "and get some fish." "Then I can tell how thick it is," said Tommy. "It doesn't make any difference how thick it is to catch fish, as long as the ice will bear you," spoke Johnny. "I know that, but I was thinking of our ice boat," went on Tommy, and he explained about the craft that he and his chums had made. "Well, I'll soon show you how thick the ice is," said old Johnny, and he chopped a hole through after some hard work. "Over a foot thick," he announced, as he came to the water. "Will that do?" Tommy wanted to know. "Of course it will. That'll hold up half a dozen ice boats. I wish I was—" The old man was interrupted by a rushing sound, followed by a scraping noise on the ice. Suddenly something like a big bird rushed from around a point. "There's an ice boat now!" cried Tommy eagerly. "So it is," agreed the old man. "I didn't know they had any on this part of the river." "That's one all right. Sam Belton owns her," explained Tommy. "He just got her." "Then you can race him in yours," suggested Johnny Green, as he got ready to fish through the ice. "I don't know as I want to," replied Tommy. "Our fellows don't like Sam very much." "No, he's rather mean," agreed Johnny Green, as he and Tommy watched the ice boat glide down the river. Then Tommy hastened on to school, to be met by a number of his friends, who were very jolly over the freezing weather. Tommy told them about the other ice boat. "Oh, we don't care for him," declared Sammy. "Maybe we can beat him if we race. His boat is bigger than ours. But anyhow, we'll go out this afternoon and try ours." To the boys, it seemed as if school would never let out. But the dismissal bell rang at last, and they trooped forth, heading for Tommy's barn. "Trot her out!" cried Teddy. "It's too bad we can't sail down to the river in her." "Guess it wouldn't be safe," was Tommy's opinion, "dodging people and houses. We want a clear course for our craft." The ice boat was light, and the boys easily carried it down to the river, though the way was rather long. The sail was furled, so that it would not be caught by the wind. "Mr. Doolittle said he'd meet us on the ice and give us some points about how to run her," explained Tommy, as they walked along. True to his promise, the lumberman was on hand. There was a good wind, and soon the boys, half a dozen of them, were in the boat, with Mr. Doolittle at the helm. "Here we go!" he cried, as the boat came up into the wind and shot forward. There was a delightful, swift, and easy motion to the ice boat, homemade as she was, and the boys shouted and yelled in joy as they dashed away. "She goes!" cried Tommy, crouching down low in the small standing pit that had been constructed just forward of the rudder. "Of course she goes," agreed Mr. Doolittle. "She'll go better when we get used to sailing her, and when we have more wind." Up and down the frozen surface of the stream, Mr. Doolittle sent the ice boat, tacking back and forth at times, and again running straight before the breeze, which was rapidly freshening. "Now you try to steer her," invited Mr. Doolittle to Tommy. "Nothing like getting used to 'em. I'll stay right by you," which he did, and soon Tommy could manage the boat fairly well. Across the frozen river he took her, the other boys taking turns at the helm, and having no end of fun. Now let Tommy take her again, suggested Sammy, after they had all had a chance to steer. He's going to be the captain of this boat. Say, I don't want to run everything, objected Tommy. That's all right. You thought of building her, and you ought to be captain, declared Sammy, and the others agreed with him. They were thinking of putting back to where they had decided to tie up their craft, near a large boathouse, when, with a whiz and a swish, another ice craft came around the bend of the frozen stream. Look at that, cried Joey Grubb. Yes, that's Sam Belton's, said Tommy, as the other craft came nearer. It's a nice one, but I like the one we have. Sure, his chums agreed with him. As Sam came closer to the homemade craft, the boys with Tommy could see that the mean lad had several others with him. Sam, catching sight of Tommy's boat, yelled, Say, get off the river with that tub. You're in my way. I can sail all around you. Can you? Shouted back Sammy. Let's see you try. We'll race you. No, we don't want to race, objected Tommy in a low voice. Oh, go on. See how near we can come to beating him, suggested Joey Grubb. It wouldn't be a bad idea, decided Mr. Doolittle. This boat of yours, Tommy, is a great deal faster than I thought, and I can see that this other chap doesn't know how to manage his so as to get the best speed out of her. Half the game in racing an ice boat is in managing her. Go ahead, give him a brush. Will you steer? Asked Tommy. No, do it yourselves. I'll be right beside you if anything happens. All right, agreed Tommy. By this time the two boats were in line, and our hero, who had been slanting his craft across the wind, now threw her up into it, so that he darted ahead. Sam's boat was going faster than Tommy's at first, but when the homemade craft caught the full breeze, she shot forward, closing up the gap. We're holding even with him, cried Joey. We're going to win, said Mr. Doolittle. The race was on. They were at a broad, straight stretch of the river now, with a clear course before them. On rushed the boats, close together, and about in line. Sam seemed surprised that the homely craft could keep up to him, and after a bit he slightly changed his course, going to the right. What's he doing that for? Asked Joey. Probably he thinks the ice is smoother there, replied Mr. Doolittle, but he's making a mistake. In a few minutes he'll be under the ice of that bluff, and the wind will be cut off from his sail. Keep to the left, Tommy. Tommy shoved his helm over, and the race still kept up. Then Sam drew nearer, lessening the distance from side to side between the craft. Here's where I leave you, cried the bully, with a laugh. Goodbye. I'll tell them you're coming. He suddenly shot over to the left, as if he was going to cross Tommy's bows, and then went to the right again. That settles him, said Mr. Doolittle grimly. A little more to the left, Tommy, my boy, and we'll get the full sweep of the wind. We're getting close to the bluff, and if we get around that point first, we win. Tommy again shifted his rudder. The Scud, which he had named his craft, went forward with a rush. We're leaving him behind, yelled Sammy. Tommy gave a backward glance. True enough, he was drawing ahead of his rival. At the same moment, Sam seemed to be aware of this. There was a shout from the lads with him, and the next instant Sam changed his course and came over toward Tommy. Too late, exclaimed Mr. Doolittle. Here's where we win. Swing to the right now, Tommy. Tommy did so, and a moment later, catching a heavy puff of wind that fairly heeled the frail craft over, the Scud shot around the point, a winner by several hundred feet, while Sam and his companions were left behind to mourn over their defeat. That's the way to do it! Hooray! Cried Joey Grubb, and in his excitement he let go of his firm hold of the rail. The next moment he went sliding from the boat's side and across the slippery ice, rolling over and over. Stop! Quick! Joey'll be hurt! Yelled Sammy. There was a shower of finely powdered ice as Mr. Doolittle shoved down the scraper brake on the back of the ice boat to bring the craft to a stop. The wind caught the frozen crystals and sprayed them over Tommy and his chums, but the ice boat was slowly checked after the burst of speed that had won the race for her. Poor Joey had not yet ceased sliding along the frozen river, however, for he had been flung off with considerable force. As soon as it was safe, Tommy leaped from the scud and ran toward his chum. "Are you hurt, Joey?" he cried. "How did it happen?" "He went sliding just like the end fellow does, in the line when we play Snap the Whip," remarked Sammy. "He let go his hold," commented the lumberman. "I told him not to." The sail of the boat was flapping in the stiff wind now, making considerable noise. Tommy, Sammy, and some of the others ran toward Joey, who was lying still and quiet on the ice, for at last he had stopped sliding. I'm afraid he's hurt," ventured Teddy Bunker. "It looks so," agreed Sammy. "What's the matter, Joey? Are you hurt much?" cried Tommy, as he leaned over his friend. To his surprise, Joey slowly arose to a sitting position, rubbed his eyes with his mittened hands, and then said drawlingly, "What happened to me, fellows? Did I fall?" "Did he fall?" exclaimed Sammy. "Say, you gave us all a scare. What's the matter with you? Are you hurt?" Joey slowly felt of different parts of his body and then made a motion as if to get up. He could not do it, however, and fell back upon the ice with a thud. "His legs are broken!" cried Tommy, who was rather frightened at the accident to his chum. "Are both of them broken, Joey?" asked Sammy anxiously. "No, neither of 'em," replied the lad. "But I've got so many clothes on, I can't bend over. That's why I can't get up. Give me your hand and I'll stand up all right. There's nothing the matter with me. I'm a little dizzy from going so fast and rolling over and over. Help me up." The others stretched out their hands to him, and he was soon on his feet. Then, for the first time, the boys noticed that Joey had on several coats, and underneath them a sweater. He was bulging out like a balloon. "Say, no wonder he wasn't hurt," cried Teddy. "With all those clothes on, he could fall from a housetop and bounce back again." "Mob made me put 'em on," explained Joey, as he walked back toward the scud. "They kept me warm, but—" "Look out!" suddenly yelled Sammy. "Here comes Sam's ice boat." With a whiz, the Swallow, which was the name Sam had given his craft, rushed toward the group of lads who were helping Joey along. The beaten ice craft had been delayed for some reason, after losing the race, but now swung around to the point and seemed to be coming straight for our friends. "He's doing it on purpose," yelled Tommy. "Yes, he's mad because you beat him," added Joey. "I'm glad you did. Let's get out of his way and talk afterwards," cried Tommy, and they swung to one side only just in time, for the Swallow passed them, too close for comfort. "I'll beat you next time, Tommy TipTop," yelled Sam, shaking his fist at our hero. "You played a trick on me. I'll win next time." "There isn't going to be any next time," called Tommy. "I'll never race with you again. But I didn't play any tricks on you." It is doubtful if Sam heard all that Tommy said, for he was sailing quite rapidly. "Well, let's get back to our boat and sail the rest of the way home," suggested Teddy. "Are you sure you're not hurt, Joey?" asked Tommy anxiously. "Oh, sure. Why, I didn't feel anything, except that I went flying through the air. Then I came down with a bump, but that didn't hurt me, for I had on so many clothes and you're so fat," added Sammy quickly. "I can't help it," retorted Joey. "No, it was a good thing this time," said Tommy. "Go on, Joey." "Why, that's all. I couldn't see anything as I went sliding over the ice, and I guess I got dizzy. Then I stopped, all at once, and, well, you fellows came, and here we are." "Yes, it's a good thing nothing worse happened," commented the young captain of the scud. "You see, you let go of the railing, just as we made a turn, Joey, and that flung you off." "I was waving my hand because I was so glad you won," explained the stout boy. By this time they were back at the scud, in charge of which Mr. Doolittle had remained. "Well, that's better than being stepped on by a person like me with big feet," he said, when Joey had related his experience. "Now I'll get you boys back to the boathouse, and then I'll have to leave you. It's a fine little boat you have here, Tommy, even if it is homemade." "That's what," chorused the others. The scud was made secure for the night, and the boys went to their different homes, talking of the fine race they had taken part in, and how Tommy had won it. The weather continued clear and cold, and a few days later, after Tommy had made some improvements in his boat, He took it out with some of his chums aboard. They had plenty of fun and learned to manage her with more skill. It really was a very good craft, considering that the boys had had no practice in building one before. "Say, it's good skating up here," remarked Sammy, as he looked over the side of the boat at the smooth ice of the river. "We ought to come up here some day. It's better than down below, opposite Riverdale." They were some distance above the town now, and the ice opposite the village was rather rough, though fairly good for the scud. "Yes, we ought to go skating," agreed Tommy. "We will, tomorrow, I guess. Will you fellows come?" "Well, I guess we will," cried Sammy. "How about it?" "Sure!" exclaimed the others. And so it was arranged. "I don't see anything of Sam in his boat," remarked Joey, who had suffered no ill effects from being spilled overboard. "No, and I don't want to," said Tommy. "I hear he's changing the sail on his boat, and is making a new kind of runners," said Teddy Bunker. "I guess he thinks he can beat you then, Tommy." "Well, I'll not race with him," decided our young hero, as he turned the boat back toward home. They went skating the next afternoon, quite a gathering of boys besides Tommy's particular chums. The ice was smooth and hard, and soon there were several races underway. Others did what they called fancy skating, grinding the bar, doing grapevine twists, cutting figures of 8, and so on. "Say, what's the matter with a game of hockey?" cried Joey Grubb. "I've got my hockey stick, and so have some of the other fellows." "Yes, but we don't all know how to play," said Tommy. "I know some of the rules, but not all of them." "That's nothing," remarked Sammy. "We can choose sides, make goals, and knock the puck up and down. It will keep us warm." "But we haven't got a rubber puck," objected Teddy, the puck being the rubber disc that is knocked over the ice. "Oh, anything will do for one," insisted Joey, who seemed very anxious to have some fun. "This piece of wood," he added, kicking one out with the toe of his skate. "All right," cried Tommy. "It's a go, fellows. Come on for some hockey." "Choose sides," added Joey. "Tommy, you be captain of one side and, well, you be captain of the other," shouted Sammy. "You thought of it, Joey." So it was arranged, and soon Tommy TipTop and Joey Grubb were picking out the lads they wanted on their respective sides. Only a few of the boys had the regulation hockey sticks, which they had brought along as a sort of aid to them in skating, but those who had none managed to cut clubs from nearby trees that would answer very well. They selected those which had knobs or knots on the end. Tommy and Joey divided their forces so that some lads would guard the goals, others would act as forwards to advance the puck, and others were told off to rush their opponents and try to get the ball away. Of course, they did not play the regular hockey game, but they had as much fun as if they had done so. "Bring it along now!" cried Tommy, when after the game had been going on for some time, he saw the piece of wood knocked toward Joey's goal. The goals were 2 stones, some distance apart, laid on the ice. To score, the puck must be knocked between them by either team, each side having its own goal. "Here we come!" cried Sammy, who was on Tommy's side. He gave the piece of wood a hard knock, and it looked as if it was going to be a point for Tommy's side, but at the last minute, Joey Grubb, who had chosen to defend his own goal, got his stick in the way and knocked the block up the ice. "Take it, Teddy!" cried the fat lad, and Teddy did take it, with such good effect that he scored a goal against Tommy. The game continued for some time, with much laughing and sport. Sometimes it looked as if Tommy's side would win, and again the advantage was with Joey. Finally, after it had been a tie for some time, Joey's lads massed together, rushed the block up toward Tommy's goal, and soon had it between the stones. "We win!" cried Joey. "All right, that's enough now," agreed Tommy. "I guess we've had enough, but we'll beat you next time. We'll all get the regular sticks and a rubber puck and have a fine game." Then, panting and laughing over their efforts, they skated slowly about, cooling off and resting. "Let's go a little farther up," proposed Tommy, after a while, to Sammy and Teddy. "I haven't been up this way since I went fishing in the summer." The others agreed, and soon leaving their chums behind, to take part in several races they had arranged, Tommy and his 2 friends skated toward a very wide part of the river. "Let's keep near shore," proposed Teddy. "Why?" Tommy wanted to know. because the current is swift under here, and the ice doesn't freeze very thick in the middle. But it's all right near shore, I guess." This seemed good advice, and they followed it. On and on they went, occasionally stopping to rest, for they were not strong skaters, though they did very well for boys of their ages. "Shall we go any farther?" asked Sammy, when they had covered a little over a mile from where the other boys were still at their racing game. "Is there anything to see up there?" inquired Tommy. "There's Hemlock Island," replied Teddy. "What's that?" Tommy wanted to know, for having lived in Riverdale only since the previous spring, he did not know all the local places of interest. "It's a regular island in the middle of the river, which is quite wide there," went on Teddy. "A lot of hemlock trees are on it, and in the middle of the island is a log cabin where Mr. Wentworth, the hardware man, and some of his friends go camping. It's great." "Will they let you go on it?" asked Tommy eagerly. "I'd like to see it." "Sure they'll let you on," declared Sammy. "They own it, but they don't mind us boys going there if we don't bother anything. Besides, I don't believe anyone is there now. Come on, let's skate up to it. It isn't more than a mile farther." "All right," agreed Tommy, "and maybe we can—" He never finished his sentence, for the next instant there was a cracking sound, and the ice over which our hero was skating gave way, letting him down into the cold water.